Hey, this is Sasha. Welcome to another episode here on Backstage Income, where we go into detail about some business things. And today what we're going to do is, it's an inside day, so we're going to take a look at some of these lights. This is the Neewer 660 and the Neewer 480. I'm going to compare a couple of these for you. As you can see, this one's the upgraded version, and this is still the older 660. So I'll share with you some thoughts, insights about them, why you should get them, or if you should get them, or if it'll suit your needs. So we'll go ahead and do compare and contrast, and I'll give you some thoughts and insights about that. All right, so as we go ahead and kind of take a look at these lights, I do like these lights. They're decent for what they are. Over the years, what I've been doing, recording my videos, and you'll see the changes if you go back through my channel, just the way things are. I used to use these big soft boxes. Well, still do at the moment. Right now I'm filming with these soft boxes. And they basically have these CFL bulbs, and have one diffusion in here and then a second diffusion. And these work really, really well for diffusing light. And that's why the picture clarity and quality comes out quite well. So now what I said, hey, 10 years later, lights have changed, lights have evolved. And I went ahead and took a look at some of these LED panels, because LED lights have been moving forward. So as I take a look at these, I wasn't sure. Do I go with, a bigger one, a smaller one? So I have the 660 and here's the 480. This one has the brackets. I just put these back in. So when you get these lights, you can take a look at my unboxing video if you want. But when you get these lights, really you have a cover here that goes right there. You also have, another bracket right here that you can mount to your tripod. So it's pretty standard. You just go ahead, screw this in onto the sides, unscrew these in. This also goes in here. You have two of these screws. Basically one screw goes in here, and then you put the top screw right in there so they go right into the holes. And now you have kind of this barn door effect that happens. So anyway, if you go ahead and use the barn doors. Otherwise, you also have these plastic clips that kind of keep this diffusion in here, which is a little made funky, because when you go ahead and pick up these lights, it feels a little weird, because if you pick them up, it just makes this weird sound, but you can't be scared of it. So you could go ahead and move this kind of initial diffuser out, and you can see there's all the lights exposed. And the main thing when looking at these, I think they produce a really nice light, for what they are, for the price. They're quite nice. If we compare right now the 660 versus the 480, the 660 is getting an upgrade. What you can see is they both have the audio, or not the audio, but the DC connector. You could go ahead and go to the battery power if you want. So if I go ahead and put in one of my K-Star batteries, Sony NPF batteries. So you pop that in there, you can flip it, and there you can see it turns on the battery. Of course, if you flip it the other way, it'll use the regular wall outlet. In the middle, it's kind of off. And it's got two knobs here to turn it. You can have, whiter light right there, or of course, if you turn it more yellow, you can have the yellower light. So I'll give you some insight here, and they both function kind of the same way. So if I go ahead and crank kind of the yellows, you can see probably the yellows, but might be a little overexposed. But you can see it on the table there. There's the yellows, real strong, and then here's the whites, real strong. So if you do both, just blasting it, it's a fairly strong light. And I'm not going to get into the technicalities of kind of these lights in the sense of the color temperature, because I think a lot of people go ahead and into that, and beyond regular YouTube videos, you kind of don't need that kind of stuff. If you're just in the range, in a good, decent range, you should be fine and okay with the color temperature, because you could always adjust that on the camera. My main thing is there enough light? Now here's the difference with the upgraded version of this Neewer, is that you get this LCD panel, so you could go ahead and dial in, and if you're moving the light, you could go ahead and get it into a perfect area. I did read that this, from people that took temperatures, is a little bit off. So let's say right now it says it's 5600 on the temperature scale for color, and I've read that basically you're pretty much going to be around 5200, so it's off by about 400 or 500, but I'm okay with that. That's not a big thing for me. The big issue, I think, when looking at these lights is what do you use them for? And if I'm looking to replace my soft boxes, it's kind of difficult to do that with these lights unless you have almost two of them. And even with the 660, I will tell you that when you compare these two, the 660, let me just turn this off right here real quick. When you compare these two lights, the 660 really, it's the same width, right? Or right here, it's the same width in this dimension. Really, all you're getting is a couple extra rows on the side. So if you really put them side by side, you can see, hey, this one, they're the same width, okay, or height, depending on which way you're flipping the light. And then the other dimension is you're just getting a few extra little lights, probably another 4 or 5 rows. So you're getting 660 bulbs. You might get 1 or 2 extra rows here. I don't know the exact calculation, but ultimately you're getting a little more light output from this. But is this 660 enough to replace kind of a softbox? And I don't think it was. My main issue is that the softbox, I think, produces a much better light overall. Now, can you add a softbox to this? Yes, you can, but there's not enough juice for that. So instead, you almost have to get 2 of these 480s or 2 660s to get enough juice. The other way to really do that, I would say, is if you go ahead and get this kind of closer to your face. If you're working with it fairly close, it should be okay to get enough output to light up your face. But if you're working on it, pretty far away, a little more than arm's distance, and you're trying to diffuse, you have to go to a camera ISO of about 800 if you're shooting video. So after playing around with this, I'll show you kind of what it looks like. Right now I have the soft boxes on, but I'll show you what it looks like with just these lights kind of pointed at me at full blast, and then I'll go ahead and also diffuse them. And I'll show you what I mean, that it's a little bit strong. You'll be able to see maybe some shadows, and that's just kind of what I got out of it. I do like the convenience of the battery versus, the soft boxes. You can't do battery. They're just so big and bulky. So I was just trying to kind of replace these lights. Can you do it with these? Yeah, absolutely. But you might need kind of 2 of them. And if you're going to get 2, rather than getting kind of the 660, I'd rather just go with 2 of the smaller ones, because then you can kind of move it, or hang it off of something, or use an arm of some sort to kind of position it or point it up. So anyways, that's just my thought. So let's take a look here at how this would look like kind of pointed at the different sides of me. Okay, so here we are kind of full blast. My eyes are turning pink with all the lights coming in, but I have the 660 over here on this side with just that light little diffusion panel, and I got the 480 over on this side. So you can see it's pretty strong. The camera's at 4.0, so it definitely will give you enough light. I'm on a 4.0 lens, and it's about hand distance away. Also, if you look at it with the ISO, it's at 500 and shutter speed around 30 or 29.97 frames a second. So if I go ahead and start bumping this up to about a f-stop of about 6.3, this is kind of where you get to see almost the same type of light as before. If I go back to about a 4.0 and change the ISO to, let's say, about 250, there you could kind of see as well, maybe about similar settings. But let's take a look. Let's diffuse these things a little bit, kind of tone them down, and play with the camera settings. Okay, so what I did now is I added a little bit of diffusion on each end on the 660 light, and you can still see, it's pretty strong. And also this 480 light as well. So I've added kind of these from the light panels, the soft boxes. I've added a little bit of diffusion. I've only given it a few inches, so the space and distance doesn't diffuse it that much. But this is where having more power helps out on the light. So I've also adjusted some camera settings, ISO about 500, f 4.0. And again, if you bump it down to, let's say, f2.8, you're going to get something like this. 3.5, I'm going like this, but you can see the light is not as spread out across the face as it does with the softboxes. The softboxes are much nicer. So I think to achieve this kind of similar effect, because they're not in the same exact spot, I've moved them just a little bit. to offset from the softboxes, but to achieve that same similar effect, you have to really diffuse the light much more. And if you're looking to do that, it might be nice to spread out a couple more lights here for me. But really, you can still see a little bit more strength on this side. And that's kind of really when you might want to go with the 660 LED panel versus the 480 is really when you're looking to diffuse the light a bit more, when you're trying to cut those things down, because they're still at 100%, both of them. But as they get diffused, you can see you're stopping things down. And if you add, let's say, a second layer of diffusion, so here's kind of, right now we got one layer, but let me add a second one on the 660. And now I have kind of two layers of diffusion. So you can see it's almost even with the other one, the 480. And again, if you need to brighten things up, you could go to kind of a 3.2. So you do have enough light to kind of make it through on a basic general video. But the thing is the 660, I would say, is better if you're going to be diffusing much more light and if you're going to put it in a softbox and those kinds of things. The 480 does just fine if you just want some basic kind of light. If you're trying to spread a couple out, then why not go with a couple of 480 LEDs, because then now you can mount them. They're a little bit lighter weight. If you're going to want the best light, I would say the softboxes still are kind of the way to go. Could you use an LED or something like a more stronger light, more expensive light, like the aperture lights, 120D, I believe. All right, let me see if I could summarize this a little bit for you between the 660 and kind of the 480. I would say if you're going to diffuse light, if you're going to, you want softer tones on the skin, you don't want a lot of harsh shadows, and you're doing more of those kinds of settings, then you're going to want a little more power. 660 is probably what you want to go with, if not even bigger, because this is not a super strong light. I'd say compare this to my softbox with 5 CFL bulbs. This plus this equals maybe one of those softbox lights. So really, but this is only 40 watts and this one is 28 watts. So together they're 68 watts. Compared to the softbox, you're looking at 150 watts. So you're draining a lot more power. Plus these can go on batteries, which is really cool. Very portable, and you can see you just put it in a backpack and you're kind of good to go. So I like that feature. I like the portability, and I like that I can just kind of move them around. I got lights. I don't have to plug it, look for where's the power outlet or run an extension cord. So I like these features, and I think I'm looking to move more to the LED lights. But for now, as you can see, I still haven't fully switched because I'm trying to learn and look at positions, what works, what makes sense, until the final setup is complete. But really, for me, if you're kind of doing it in more of a studio, I would say looking to get multiple 480 lights is better than getting one 660, because then you could have one that's pointed up, bouncing off the ceiling. You could have one, softly going on your skin. So you could have two of these lights now instead of just having one 660. Now I know the price difference is not the same, meaning you can't get two of these for the same price as one of these. It's only like $10 or $20 more. But I would rather get multiple of these than having these. Plus also, the bigger they are, it's a little bit harder because now positioning it, I could put one maybe, near my camera right here off to the side and just dim it down to maybe 10 or 20%. Another one maybe on the other side, 10 or 20%. And with being such portable, smaller devices as far as lights go, it allows you to really play with how the lighting is set up. Now, that also means you need more batteries, more outlets, and that kind of thing. But in either case, that's what I would do. Those are just some of my thoughts. As a YouTuber, I think these are fine. Even the 480 will do you just fine. You just have to crank it up. You might have a little bit more harsher shadows. You could diffuse the light a bit, but you'll have to bump up your camera ISO, playing around it with around maybe 800 or thereabouts on the ISO, depending on which lens you use or the f-stop. But I found that I do have to crank up a little bit more on the ISO if I'm just using just these lights and not the soft boxes. So anyways, that's just my thoughts. If you're interested in these lights, feel free to check out the description. I'll link them there below. And of course, if you want to stay in the know, go ahead, hit the subscribe button, and that way you get notified as I release new videos, or check out some of the other business trainings that I have available, or things that could help out your business grow on our website and newsletter list. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.